that was a huge challenge that I accepted, and I ended up going from being the worst in that company to being the top 1%. There was a couple times where I was the very top performer in the company, and I owe it to that meeting as the very beginning and to my mentor. And what did I do during that time to become the best? It was I studied. That's something, you know, I studied my face off. I made it what Robert Kiyosaki said. You need to learn how to sell. It wasn't just sitting down and doing a job. It was learning it and figuring out the nuances of what makes it work. So one of the things that was cool about working at a sales job is all the phone calls were recorded. So I could go listen to my phone calls and see how I sounded, and it was horrible. It was so painful at the beginning, listening to myself on the phone. I started to see how I sounded to other people, how I would have filler words like ums and uhs, and how it would make me sound unintelligent. What was also cool is I was able to listen to other people's phone calls that were the best at the time. So I listened to the top performers' calls, picked them apart, and found like common things of what worked. And then I would experiment, create an experiment, try something new, fail at it, try something new, it works, and just do a whole lot of repetition. I spent probably at least as many hours as I actually worked on the clock getting paid. I would say I spent probably 50% of that total time studying. So if I was working 6 hours a day or 30 hours a week, I was probably spending 15 hours extra just studying. Maybe a little less. So if it was 6 hours a day, I was probably using 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, listening to calls or finding something to do to learn how to sell. So I did that, and remember, I started getting into audiobooks, right? So then I also started reading books to help me become a better communicator and a better salesperson. One of the first books I read that helped a ton was How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's other books like Getting Past No or Getting to Yes, The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. And then later on, when I was good and I was just fine-tuning it, then I started studying like different pieces of the calls. So one of the most important pieces is gaining trust. And so I read a book that's all about building trust and rapport in the beginning called like How to Get People Like You in 90 Seconds or Less. Or when I was focusing on closing, I found this great guy with a bunch of great content on closing, Grant Cardone. If you haven't checked out Grant Cardone, go do it. He's my man, Uncle G. And what his stuff taught me is just how to close sharper and more confident. And that's really what I think my whole sales journey gave me, is communication skills, but also confidence to ask for somebody and talk to another human being. So fast forwarding a little bit, so I did that job for about 2 years where I was just an agent. Then they did I was a position added on called a peer coach. And when I was a peer coach, I still did the agent job, but then I had other agents that were kind of my peers that we would meet and mastermind and kind of learn from each other, and I would teach them. But then what happened was my last position in that job became what was called a mentor coach. And what a mentor coach primarily did is train new agents. I was a manager, oversaw agents, and then trained new sales agents to become better. So I'd do trainings. It helped me get in front of a room a little bit to overcome the fright of like having a room of people talking to you. Talking to somebody on the phone over and over, that became easy after a while. But then there was still people seeing me like in front of a room. I was pretty shy at the beginning of that, but that started to wear off. And the last year that I was there, I moved from Salt Lake City down to Cedar City, Utah, and helped open up an office there and managed some people there. I tell you that because, again, this could be totally boring for most people, but I want to just document the details the best as I can. So let me see if I can be transparent on numbers. One of the I think the best year I made there was like 60 grand. Nothing crazy. When I was going through college, I was only making about 20 grand. And again, my goal is to be a millionaire. So I just want to be totally open and transparent with what I made while I was there. So while I was there, though, I was an employee, and I was an entrepreneur in an employee role. So I would get into conflicts sometimes because I was always trying to make things better or do things differently, and that doing the things differently was outside of the norm or outside of the policy. When I started working with the company, I loved it because it was so new that it had the entrepreneurial feel, but nothing against the company. It's still a great company. I love everybody that's over there. But what happened was, over time, you have to have more processes and you have to have policies in place. And so it was a little bit more difficult to be entrepreneurial. So during this time, I always wanted to leave and go do my own thing. Go be an entrepreneur in my own gig. I was doing network marketing on the side. And throughout my first few years in network marketing, while I was working as a salesperson at this job, I didn't really get anywhere because of fear. I was fearful to contact people. I know how it is. You probably do too if you had to prospect. I would go to the meetings. I would get on the calls. I would talk to people once in a while, but I never made anything consistent about it by any means. Until it was about the last year. The last year, the group of people that I was with left the main network marketing company I was with, and I went into this new network marketing company, and I gave that one a good push. And that was fun, because with that, I love network marketing, by the way, for what it does for people to help shift them and transition from an employee to more of an entrepreneur. And what I loved about that is I started to get more serious about it, taking ownership, got to speak in front of a room about the company a couple of times, and then I went from making almost nothing in my other company to averaging about $5,000 to $1,000 a month in that company. So that last network marketing company, I was with it for about a year, and then unfortunately the company didn't work out and it went bankrupt. So then I was out of that. So now so where we're at in this point in the story is last year. We're in, let's just say about 12 months ago. By the way, today is, let me just check the date, it's the 21st, I think? Yeah, today's January 21st, 2016. So about a year ago, again, the itch was getting so big to want to go do something else, to be my own boss, to be more of an entrepreneur. I had it for years before then, but something happened where it just came to a head, where I decided that I wasn't going to be an employee anymore, and now it was just a matter of time. So now it was like a timing issue. When am I going to leave? When am I going to quit? When am I going to go do something else? And something that helped me was this cool little exercise I did. I went and kind of just asked myself, what would my 10-year-older self wish I would do right now? So I was 27 at the time, so what would my 37-year-older self wish I would do? And it was pretty obvious that I, as 10 years older, would wish I would quit, right? Because as you get older, people start getting more responsibility. It gets harder to make changes. And so I decided if I'm ever going to do it, the earlier the freaking better. The worst thing that would happen if I didn't quit is then 10 years passes and I'm still stuck in an employee job and my soul is just being eaten alive because I'm not being fulfilled, not being an entrepreneur, not having the freedom that I'm trying to create. And certainly, as an entrepreneur, most likely not being a millionaire. And it's been my goal since I was really young to try to aim for being a millionaire by the time I'm 30. And that's what I'm still at. 28 right now.